Hello everybody and welcome back to Case Management 1, and this is week 3, the second of our Zoom sessions this week. I'd like to introduce Sonia and Ma and Amanda to our discussion, and I thought we might we'd go a couple of ways this week. We could look at the case management thing with Bell, which is okay, it'd be a bit boring, or we can play a game. But actually it's a kind of good game, and it's entirely related to the practical side of assessments. So I'll give you a little scenario, and you can ask me questions, and I'll be honest with you. I'll cut all the bullshit and we'll get straight to the nitty-gritty, and all you have to do is get to tell me, if you can, what is my support need. Okay, all you have to do is find out my support need. This is the game. Are we happy? We want to play? It's a bit like being Sherlock Holmes. Right. So I am a 45-year-old man. I've arrived at the homeless service. I'm pretty well dressed. I've got a suit jacket on, and I'm being housed, and I'm coming for an assessment with the case manager. And you have to ask me questions, and I will not lie to you. And you then have to tell me what my support need is. Okay?
Okay, can I just recap it? So it's a 45-year-old man who's come in well dressed for assessment with case management in regards to housing. In
the homeless service. Well, you have to find out.
Okay, no, I was just clarifying what you said.
Yeah. Not in regards to anything.
We ask questions to you, do we?
Yeah, and I'll just answer you honestly. I won't lie to you.
Can I ask where you slept last night?
I slept in my car. It's a Rolls Royce.
Okay.
Are you currently employed?
No. I had my own business, but it's fallen through.
How long ago did it fall through?
About a year ago.
What have you been doing for income between now and then?
Well, you know, a bit of this and a bit of that. Savings and odd jobs, you know, bits and pieces.
Have you had the...
cars and things. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're right. Have you approached Centrelink for any income support?
No. I don't like the idea of going to Centrelink. I'm not a bum.
Have you got family, like immediate
wife? Family. I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife. We broke up recently about a week ago. She kicked me out finally.
So have you been in the car for a week?
Well, yeah, I was staying on a friend's sofa for a bit, and then that fell through. So then I was sleeping in the car last night, but it was a bit cold. So I thought I'd come here.
So what brought you to the service today?
I was sleeping in my car and I'm looking for a bed. I thought you might be able to help me out with a bed, or set me up with, a hotel or something. I'd rather be in a hotel than a homeless service.
And how long's it been since you've had your own accommodation other than your car?
I was living at home with my wife a week ago.
Is there any chance of you and your wife getting back together or anything like that, or?
Yeah, maybe, but she kicked me out, so I don't know. I'll have to talk to her. She seems pretty angry.
Okay.
Can I ask how long you've been married?
16 years.
Okay, is this the first time she's kicked you out?
Yeah, well, maybe about 3 months ago she kicked me out. But, we got back together.
And how long did it take last time before you could go back to the house and stay with her?
About a week.
And have you spoken to your wife today?
Yeah, I call her every day, but normally she just hangs up. She doesn't want to talk to me.
Okay. Have you thought about doing relationship counselling?
Well, yeah, I thought about it, but she won't speak to me.
The last time she kicked you out, did you do it, both of you do any counselling at all?
No, we don't really seem to do that sort of thing. No, we just kind of got
So
back.
are you
Can I just
looking
ask-
for short-term accommodation just to get you through until you can figure out what's going to happen with you and your wife, or whether you'll need longer-term accommodation?
Say again. Can you say it again, Ma?
Are you looking for short-term accommodation just till you can figure out what the next step's going to be?
Yes, really, that's it.
So can I just jump back again? I know someone asked that, but they were asking about your family support. Do you have any family or friends that you're close with or that you could stay with in the interim?
No, my family are in Queensland, so I'm in Melbourne, so don't.
Family.
We moved down here a while ago, so we're not really in contact.
And you haven't been in to see Centrelink yet. Would that be an option you'd consider?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I haven't got any money to. Maybe I need to go to Centrelink.
Can I just say there seems to be three things here that are the main issues for you, and that is your accommodation, some finances to be able to support the accommodation in the interim while you and your wife sort out what you want to do going forward. So there's three things that I've identified for you that we need to think about. Centrelink's definitely an option. They would be able to provide you with finances. However, we do need to sort out some kind of accommodation to do that. We do have set things that we find important. We can't just give out housing to anyone and everyone. So we have a criteria that you'd need to sit down with us and go through. You're happy to do that?
Yeah, everything you just said is correct, but it's not correct. And I'll tell you, let me explain to you why it's not correct. The way you said it was great. Everything that you've just identified as a list is okay, but you still haven't you've not identified my primary presenting support need. All the things that I need to arrange are okay, but you've not really identified the problem, have you? And this
Well, I've got the problem, but I know
So you're not
what the
gonna-
problems
you're not
are, but I
gonna-
guess
you don't know what the problems are. What are the problems?
When was the last?
the fact that you've come in a nice
Not a
suit.
problem. That's a symptom.
No, I know
All
that.
of the things you've identified are symptoms. What is the problem? What is the
He doesn't
problem?
have accommodation.
No, that's not a problem. That's a symptom. This is the point. This is what this game is about. This is about learning how to play this game properly in life, where you go in your job, you have to do this, and you have to be quite confronting sometimes. So
Is the problem that that you possibly need to seek help in life to figure out what you want and where you want to go, and help with relationships and that?
there isn't a support agency that does that. You don't have a life coaching support agency that you can go to. That doesn't exist. If you're rich, you can get a life coach, I'd imagine. They do some training and some meditation with you and things like that.
I guess if you came and spoke to me, the first thing I'd be saying, how are you feeling? Like, I'd be wanting to know how you immediately
Well, yeah, I'm a little
you
bit depressed. I'm a little bit depressed, Sonia, because I don't have any home, and I broke up with my wife, but I'm relatively, considering the circumstances, I'm pretty buoyant. I'm pretty resilient.
Okay.
When was the last time you ate?
Yesterday. Yesterday I ate some McDonald's, and that pretty much brought me to my last $10.
Okay. Okay.
Go on.
Yeah.
I tell you what you're avoiding doing, which is doing the real job. You're missing the real nuts and bolts of this whole thing. Which is why we're playing the game. This is the
So, what would you prioritize as your needs?
That's a good question. Home and money.
And you've considered going to Centrelink. That's an option you're willing to consider.
Yeah.
And you're looking at short-term accommodation. You don't have any other options apart from seeking help for that accommodation?
No,
Am I correct?
that's why I've come here. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Now I'll tell you now, I'm getting a little bit frustrated because we're going around the same circles, and you're not giving me what I need when you're not asking me any new questions. As a client, I'm going to get a little bit angrier in our interview now.
Okay.
Just want to put the Bunsen burner under the flask, so to speak. This does happen. I was intake for homeless services for a long time, so I tell you how this works. People start getting pissed off that you can. I've said that. I've told you. How many times do I got to tell you the same thing? But what you're not doing is getting to the nuts and bolts. What are we missing here?
Look, I'll be honest, the fact that for me, and I'm saying this to you, not as, I wouldn't say this to the client, but what's throwing the spanner in the works to me is that he has an expensive car, he's come in well dressed, so would he be suitable for homeless accommodation, or is there other alternatives? That's what's making me confused. I understand what his needs are, is money and accommodation, and we have to give him some kind of support to that, but depending, some places you can't just accept it to anyone and everybody. Anyone who goes, I've had a fight with my girlfriend, I need accommodation.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely
So
correct.
that's what's confusing me.
You're holding short of the next big thought that you need to have. And this is where maybe all the experience comes in, but I can cut to the chase. If you want to give up on the game now.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Do you use drugs or alcohol?
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Now we're going somewhere. Oh, now we've asked a real question. No, I don't.
Big question, no help.
But we're on the track, Mara. You've gone down. Now we're heading down a real route. Now
Have you gambled lately?
Sorry?
Have you gambled lately?
Bingo, Sonia, you are the winner. Oh,
nice.
It's
Yay!
That is that thing. Yes.
Oh, thank God we got there.
I am a problem gambler. Yes. And I tell you what, after years of working in this industry, I sat and I had this client in front of me, and he drove a Rolls Royce. And it was a crappy old Rolls Royce, about 20 years old. And it was not working. It was broken down somewhere, and he had it towed to the homeless service. It was in terrible state, but it was a Rolls Royce. Anyway, I had this, and I couldn't for the life of me get to this point. But here's what you've got to do when you're working. Whenever you're coming across anybody, you've got to identify a couple of things. What are the symptoms and what is the problem? The problem could be all sorts, right? The problem could be that a guy has, or a client has, mental health issues, alcohol and drug issues, gambling problems. They might have an intellectual or learning disability. They might have a complex range of these things. They might have a personality disorder, but that's kind of like a borderline mental health problem. Anyway, these are the kind of choices you've got, or an addiction of some kind. An addiction could be a sexual aberration, like that that puts them in conflict with other people around them, for example. But you've got to find, at the end of the day, why? And as Amanda said, why do we provide a service to anybody? Because, and this is what you have to do if you're working in an assessment process, identify the need, which is a primary need, and then you can resource and address the primary need, right? There might be an abusive relationship, right? I might be a victim of abuse or a perpetrator of abuse, and address that in an appropriate manner. So that might be one of the primary support needs. But finding gambling, Sonia, is inspired, I've got to say. And it took me, I've got to say, about at least this long, I think, talking around the houses with this bloke, trying to go, why the hell are you in this service? I can't work out what your problem is.
I can't even do my thing.
Sorry?
Okay, I'll
Is anyone else having trouble with internet?
No, just Optus.
Hello?
No, it's okay.
Just me? Everyone else's internet's fine?
It's the new house. Amanda, you have to move out again.
Yeah, I'll log back in.
Oh, okay. She's off. That's unfortunate because Amanda was doing very well. But Amanda did all the right things. Amanda's asking the right question. Why do we provide a service to anybody? The eligibility is very important here. You know, and this is the key point. Work out what are the symptoms, work out what are the primary needs. And this was really the nuts of today's lesson, was to talk about that in assessments. If you can understand and separate what are the symptoms, what are the primary needs, you can start dealing with them in a more meaningful way. You link people in, and so, you know, medical, we didn't talk about medical health as well. Maybe medical issues can be one of the needs. I worked in a service where I was helping aged people in a local government, and occasionally they would be, their primary support need would be an impending medical emergency, which was going to leave them unable to live independently, and therefore their immediate support need was hospital, and then their medium to longer term support needs were finding alternative supported accommodation, for example. So these are the sorts of, so you kind of look at these pathways, and it's not so complex once you can start identifying questions. You find that it's not that difficult. But as I was saying, Amanda's back in now. Can you hear us, Amanda?
Yeah, it tastes better now, sorry.
But Amanda's process of thought was, why are we giving this person a service? And that idea of eligibility is primary. And all the things were correct. Everything Amanda said, she identified all those support needs that need to be fixed up. You know, you've got to kind of develop pathways to address support needs, but you still have to identify that primary one, or primary ones, because dual diagnoses, mental health, drug and alcohol, something like that. Could be parenting with youth as well. Primary support needs for young people might be having bad parents who are not looking after them. So things like that. Do we have any questions?
Are we getting another scenario?
Sorry, no, we're just tying up on what we were talking about with the problem gambler. Gambling, by the way, being the most difficult to identify, because you can't really see what the need is. The person presents very well. You would ask, I would be asking, and I did ask, have you had any experience or a history in mental health services? Have you ever had a mental health treatment? I would certainly be going there, and I might, if I wasn't inspired like Sonia, and I might be headed down the mental health route as well, because, and people don't disclose as well. You have to be a little bit, forthright sometimes and clever. You have to start following up on the leads. If somebody tells you one thing and it's not consistent in your head, you have to develop in your own mind a consistent picture that leads you to understand something. You know, it was good in a way. Ma was asking the same questions in different ways, which is good because that helps develop some degree of understanding. When you said you were in the car, where was the last time you had a permanent home? And going back and asking those questions again to make sure you understand. Don't worry about that. And if the client starts to get upset, you say, look, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clarify what the situation is because I need to work out how best we can help you. You have to, and if people begin to lose the plot because they've got to answer the same questions, then they're maybe not suitable for the service. Or you might actually find that that indicates they've got a mental health problem, for example. They have problems with depression, or they're unmedicated, or something like that. Or they're nervous. Because the other thing is, why do people get angry? Can you answer that question?
Frustration.
Frustration, panic.
Yeah, fear. Anger is often a manifestation of fear. And that people deal with that fear. And so the fear might be that they're not going to get the service they want. And I've worked in services where we provide material aid and they come in saying, can I have some money for the rent? And their fear might be they're going to be homeless if they can't get there. So you might be assessing them and they're increasingly frustrated that you won't just give them the money to make sure that housing is secured, which is a reasonable thing. People get upset and afraid about their circumstances.
What do you do with a resilient client or a client that just continually isn't telling the truth, but you can pretty much pick that there is more to it?
You don't give them a service. You were threatened to not give them a service, and you say, look, I'm sorry, but from what you're telling me, there's nothing we can do for you. And certainly in homeless services will come up with this criteria that Amanda mentioned. They don't just give you a bed. If you need to have a support need which is identified, and then a pathway to address the support need to ensure that they try and get you out of a cycle of homelessness, because that is a concern. And homelessness is one of those presenting symptoms, not a need.
So the support need would have been the gambling.
Yes, and so you would set them up with Gamblers Anonymous, and then you try and get them to acknowledge that the gambling has become a problem, which has led to them having no money, and their family have become unhappy with them and thrown them out of the house because they might steal or whatever and lie. And there's a big cycle of what's gone on in the past. So they're no different to heroin addicts, people who will manipulate, lie, and cheat and steal in order to get what they need to keep going back for a fix, because it is an emotional problem.
So just a question, if you're in that circumstance and you're doing the intake for someone, how do you address, because I mean, they are going to become frustrated if they're not going to get a bed. And I mean, if someone's presented in quite a well manner, and has recently just had an argument with a girlfriend, I mean, that would have to be criteria that wouldn't be applicable. Like, you wouldn't accept that kind of thing into a homeless shelter, I would think, because that's not heavily homeless.
You've got a reasonable expectation of getting that person out of the cycle. You can't just go. I've had all sorts of people come across various services that I've worked in, so I wouldn't don't predict just by the way somebody's looking. I've had some. I've picked out. I remember there was one lady who was pretty well heeled, an older lady who was she was pretty much homeless, and I just saved her from going into a cycle of homelessness by sticking her into a local government housing unit, and just literally plucking her from the very edge, the cliff of homelessness, and putting her into a long-term housing option because, it was the best outcome for her. It's about outcomes. So if you're looking at expectations and outcomes, that's the other thing. The service, whether it's a homeless service or whatever the service is, if you're not going to get an outcome that is appropriate for your service, you're not going to take them in. The other thing is, you know, if you are a family welfare service, you're not going to pick up that single homeless guy who's got a gambling problem because he's not eligible for a service, even though you might recommend family reconciliation will deal with that homelessness, etc. Really, that's not the outcome, is it? The outcome is he's got to fix his gambling problem in order, maybe in a year or so. And that was a picture in my head, because there's another thing. You've got to get a picture in your head as to how you think you're going to be able to support this person. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, that guy might want to reconcile with his family. He certainly didn't when he was meeting with me, but might be a year away. And that if he works on his issues, stays off gambling, and then he reconciles with his family after being independent for a period of time, that he would have a more successful chance by getting his family to accept that he'd given up gambling. Or
so I can see the long-term goals, and I can see how to get there long-term. I'm just struggling in that initial, what you probably get so long to assess people. I'm struggling on how to address the issues and sort it out in that period of time. I can see the long-term and what, like, you know, mediation with the wife and the gambling, and I can see all that and how that would work as a long-term goal, but I'm just struggling with the short-term and addressing his accommodation and financial needs here and now.
Well, if he's willing to participate in gambling and is technically homeless, and your organisation, he does fit most, like, the criteria, you would help him, wouldn't you?
Ma, let me clarify what you're talking about. You said willing to participate in gambling. You mean he's going to keep gambling?
No, like if he's willing to, like, seek a referral to
address the gambling problem,
Yeah. So if he's willing to, you know, go halfway and fix the actual problem of what needs to be addressed for the long-term fix, then surely if he fits other criteria, like some organisations, wouldn't they then meet him halfway back and go, all right, well, we can help you with a couple of nights accommodation or even one night's accommodation?
Well, normally we get brokerage funds for those things. So you'll broker somebody into a hotel for the night, but really on the basis that you're not. Well, I used to do it different ways. Right? I set up all these different, like, accommodation, like these. All right, Carly, I'd set up all these different sort of networks. So I would have holding patterns, like a air traffic controller, with various homeless people, because there's such a degree of homelessness, such an amount of need, and you would have people who would be more or less engaged and willing to be supported, and then so you bring people in as fast as you can on a needs basis. If that guy is fairly resilient, independent, he's got a gambling problem, and he hasn't got any money. He can't gamble with no money. So I'll pay his rent and put him in a hotel for a couple of nights to bring him in to get supported later on when a bed pops up. So you have wait lists.
Okay.
Wait lists are quite important. Somebody who's got imminent need, though, I would bring them in immediately if they're vulnerable, if they're older, they're frail, they've got no other alternatives. I would bring them straight in and put them straight into a. But again, you know, some people might be so intellectually frail that they are unable to make strong choices. So they're not going to be able to say, yes, I am willing to engage in a support need. You will literally just support them. You'll pick them in, you'll grab them and say, here's your support, my friend, a supported accommodation. We're sending you here. Is that okay? They go, and you go, right, sign here. Unfortunately, you will just start, and it sounds like it's not very sensitive, but in a way, if somebody can't make a good decision, rather than go through the whole guardianship process, that could be very protracted. you might just kind of go, look, you need to be supported, so you might talk somebody into it. I've done a lot of that. I find myself doing that a lot, you know, talking people into services. Absolutely selling services to people. Saying, oh, you're
I
like
think there's a bit of
nice people. I've got a friend there. Nice community, lovely beds. Oh, you'll like it there. Go there, you know. And all sorts of stuff. Older people into old people's homes. Oh, it's like a hotel. Oh, no, they look after you. Great. Give up your independence, you know. It's terrible that you have to do that, but you have to do that.
Better than being homeless, I suppose.
Or failing in their independent accommodation situations for older people, you know. There's all sorts of different scenarios that occur for these guys.
I don't like nursing homes. I think you know, you've got to be careful when you say to people about going into nursing homes, because then they can end up having a really bad quality of life. So often,
Sonia, you're right. No,
they often don't last very long in a nursing home, and I know that from my family's experience. So I'm not really keen about that.
Sonia,
I'd never be
I had a job where I literally went around selling old people into nursing homes. And
that's a shitty job, that's all I can say.
Well, no, you've got to think about the alternative, because I wasn't doing it for fun. I would be referred to, I would have people referred to me. They would have no money. They would have no other options, because it's all about regional basis, right? People with no money don't get choice. So,
That's true.
So they're going to either, you know, they might have a fall and die in their independent accommodation alone, where nobody's taking care of them, and they're not engaged in any services, or, you know, they unfortunately have to go and live in a shared group accommodation, which is of lower quality and has dubious support set up. And I agree. And I know some terrible carers in those environments. Absolutely. But, you know, this is you've got to work out, this is where we are. This is why we vote for governments that will be progressive in establishing correct procedure and not for self-centered type governments. And this is why we, you know, this is our society. Nothing is perfect. I don't know. I've worked on other continents as well, and I can promise you, Australia's pretty good. You want to go to Asia and see what old age care looks like there. Yeah. And you know, it is. It is. You think, oh, I don't want my aged relative in that environment. Yeah, it is sad, but I know. It sounds horrible.
I know some people have no choice, but I suppose I'm more for the independent living, where you get people coming in, supports coming in, you know, like through the HAC services and stuff like that.
Good. That's great if that can go on, but there comes a point where,
yes, it does.
And there's a number of credits that people get for those services as well, and when their credit runs out in that regard, you know, they end up having to be, and nursing homes, you're right, bed sores, and you know, they're God's waiting room, aren't they? Nursing homes. It's a horrible thing to say, but you know what? There's one by. I used to work for Wintringham. Do you know Wintringham?
No.
I've worked for Wintringham, an aged care service. They made a gazillion. They had their first dollar on the wall when I worked there years ago. And they've got a nursing home right next to the Williamstown Cemetery. That's you look out the window. Yeah, that's very inappropriate to say that, isn't it? Yeah, but really, it's terrible.
Good laugh.
There are some good agencies volunteer work for advocacy, and they actually went into nursing homes and mental health facilities and did an assessment. It was all volunteer based, and they had to go in and assess all these different things and look at different things, speak to the clients that were in there, everything. And there was a visit done every month, different times all the time, just to assess, to make sure it was all kosher.
Yeah, you see all these hidden camera things going on, and this is one of the things. Is the industry is so under-resourced that you can't afford trained staff, and so you end up getting untrained, unskilled, uncaring people working, and it's not a great job, is it? Aged care. It's really the bottom of the welfare sector, community sector industry, where you're taking care of physical care of older people. So yeah, I say get more people to emigrate to Australia and give them jobs. There's a lot of foreign people would be happy to do those sorts of jobs.
Whereas, yeah, and they are doing that.
Yeah, and it
and
works.
Disability support workers, huge amounts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they're willing to accept the lower wages and do a good job as well.
Yeah.
As opposed to native-born Australians who go, I'm not going to do that, and those people that do take the jobs are really fairly unskilled. So you can, yeah. Anyway, time's up. We've run over time. Any questions before we go on? Are we happy with?
Sorry, I was late.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was late.
We'll penalise you for that, Carly. So we're all happy. We've got to find our support need. Carly, you might want to watch the beginning of this video because we played a game. It's a good game.
Ah, I missed the game.
Sonia won the game. Sonia was
good work, Sonia.
Oh, I'm just a lucky guess.
We'll be back on Wednesday for the next session, which is something else. Risk this week, isn't it? Risk is coming up. Assessments and risk, I believe we'll be talking about. Okay. Everyone happy? No questions there? No? Have we got an assessment this week?
Next week.
End of week 4.
End of week 5.
End of week 5. That's right.
Yeah.
What is it again?
Totally just stressed me out there.
Those 5 services.
Oh, the resources. Oh my God, that's like falling off a log, that is. That's so easy. You just got to identify 5 services for our 3 clients and fill in the form and write not applicable and don't write paragraphs. Oh, I'm not assessing, am I? Write paragraphs. Write dot points. Write dot points because that's all you need. Just write dot points. Don't write any paragraphs. It's very easy. Yeah. All right. Cut and paste as well from websites. That's another. Okay.
Thank
Cool.
you.
See you
Thank
guys.
you very much.
You have a good one.